call this hearing to order. Thank you, Ms. Sargus, for being here today. Appreciate it. And your entourage, like a president of a country here with all this. Although the budget for Open World Center is small as compared to the rest of our legislative branch agencies, it's had a real impact in showcasing U.S. values and democratic institutions in an area of the world where Russian officials stand firmly against our nation's democratic principles. It does so by facilitating visits to the United States by legislators and other government officials from Russia, Ukraine, and other countries to meet with their colleagues here. I understand the center uses the strength and expertise of local volunteer organizations and cost-sharing and grant proposals to maximize savings. This is a benefit to the taxpayer visiting countries and local communities, a win-win for everyone involved. And we're thankful for the leadership of the center, its staff, and the many volunteers across America who've worked hard to ensure the success of Open World. My own state of Ohio is the 6th most visited state, having hosted over 1,200 Eurasian visitors. I look forward to your testimony today and working with you to continue building global relationships. I was telling the staff earlier today, over my career, I've done a lot of traveling, and I just think the interfacing of legislatures and legislators is essential to having these deep relationships that we need. Presidents come and go, and a lot of times the seniority in our legislative bodies is really essential to kind of deepen the relationship between the countries. So I'm thankful for all of your work and your great and well-dressed team that you have over there. We have to look into the budget. You're paying these guys a lot of money. They're very sharp, well-dressed. But with that, we're happy to hear your remarks. Let me first, the ranking member, Ms. Butler.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you, Ms. Sargus. I look forward to hearing your testimony and learning more about the center and how it supports changes in other countries by inviting developing leaders to observe our democracy and our free enterprise system in the U.S. When I get to questions, I'm obviously interested in hearing about the activities that you guys participate in throughout the U.S. and including my district. We are not the 6th most visited, but as I was looking through, we do get our share. So it's a pleasure with that. I give it back.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Without objection, Ms. Sargus, your written testimony will be made part of the record. With this in mind, please summarize your statement and highlight your efforts of the past year to the committee. After your statement, we will move to questions and answers. So please begin.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming our delegation of the members of Parliament of Serbia. We're delighted that they're part of this process today. It illustrates actually the real work of Open World, and having them here with me is encouraging, and I hope that you will have a chance to speak with them for a moment. I don't know that they'll stay the whole time, though, so we'll see.
No, they have to.
No money.
No money. We'll try to keep it brief. But
yes. Chairman Ryan, Ranking Member Herrera Butler, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for this opportunity to present testimony on the Open World Leadership Center's budget request for fiscal year 2020. In this request, the center is asking for $5.8 million, an increase of $200,000 or 3.6% over the 2019 enacted appropriation. Open World has been at the current enacted level since fiscal year 2016. The increased funds are needed mostly for program costs, especially airfare, accommodations, and other logistical expenses. The center conducts a one-of-a-kind peer-to-peer exchange program that has hosted more than 28,000 emerging leaders from Russia, Ukraine, and other post-Soviet and transitional states since 1999. In 2018, more than 140 of our participants were either members of Parliament, parliamentary staff, or regional and local legislators. By the end of this year, we will have hosted our 20,000th Russian participant. As a legislative branch agency, the Center is well-placed to provide critical support to Congress in its foreign affairs oversight responsibilities. Indeed, this placement is the leading component of the success of the Open World program in these strategically important countries. Providing programs for informed citizens and in turn for more informed legislators is universally a good thing. And we do this in a critical region of the world where knowledge-based democracies with transparency and accountable governance are not traditions. On the program side, Open World has an American hosting network of service clubs, local NGOs, and community colleges, as well as thousands of volunteer host families. In 2018, these host families lived in nearly 120 congressional districts in 48 states and contributed nearly $2 million in-kind contributions. Coupled with an increasing number of U.S. embassies working directly with Open World and other cost-sharing partners, this keeps the per-person cost of an Open World delegate at about $9,000, far below the standard executive branch rate of $20,000 per person. Open World's young leaders stay in private homes in American communities across the country. They discuss topical issues of mutual interest and experience firsthand the functioning of our democratic institutions. They talk with their counterparts during the professional program and go back to their countries with high praise for that and for their American host families. This is how the Open World program nurtures civil society that develops not only from the top down, but from the ground up and the periphery in. Each year, there are new American civic organizations such as Friendship Force, Rotary, Sister City, or other clubs joining the Open World Network. And because of this network, these future leaders from Eurasia form positive views of the United States, which in turn influence attitudes in their home countries. The most important work we do, however, is to showcase the American system of governance, particularly the legislative process. Did you know that the Americans with Disabilities Act has impacted communities far beyond our borders? Last year, a delegation from Azerbaijan with 3 disabled participants went to Reno, Nevada to examine how that law could be replicated in their country. That the GI Bill and other veteran-related legislation inspired the Ukrainian parliament to establish the Ministry of Veterans Affairs last year. An Open World delegation hosted in Maryville, Tennessee, is taking the lead to help craft legal and legislative language addressing these needs. That the Freedom of Information Act leaves an indelible impression on the Russian journalists that come on the Open World program. When a state journalist from Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's press pool expresses a favorable impression of the voice of America, acknowledging its independence no less, we have just made an inroad in countering disinformation. For the United States Congress, the Open World Leadership Center is a resource. Our delegations are ready and willing to provide on-the-ground, unfiltered information about events and developments in their countries. Open World is an asset. Our parliamentary program is unmatched in the legislative branch. When your counterparts in Open World countries meet with you, you are getting direct and firsthand information. This, in turn, becomes the basis for a more informed foreign policy. Open World is an investment. Bringing delegations of rising leaders to meet with their counterparts here creates a global network of partners united in a common goal: to endow democracies in transition with the basic ingredients of accountable governance and transparency in a civil society. The Open World program is your toolkit for supporting democracies in transition, a toolkit that creates opportunities for Open World participants to experience how legislative action is the change agent their governments may need, a toolkit that allows America's constituents to engage personally in strengthening civil society in other countries. In these countries that do not have a tradition of open debate or legitimate opportunities to propose alternatives for their government, our participants see how the legislative process can empower them to be that agent for change. Most importantly, though, the Open World program is an effective one precisely because it is in the legislative branch. In today's geopolitical environment, legislative diplomacy emerges as a unique but no less powerful tool for engaging governments in critical regions of the world. There are good examples of open world success stories itemized in the justification. This unique program continues to succeed in a shifting landscape where it has achieved a special status in the successor states of the former Soviet Union and elsewhere. On behalf of all of us at the Open World Center, I thank the subcommittee for its interest in and support of the Open World Leadership Center.
We will open it up for questions. I will yield to my ranking member, Ms. Herrera-Butler. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, from the research we've found, you've hosted 12 programs over the years in my neck of the woods in Washington State, and I believe members of parliament from Tajikistan and regional economic specialists from Ukraine are visiting our area at least this year.
Yes.
I just wanted to hear what types of district events you participate in, and how you determine what districts you choose.
So Open World seeks to get geographic diversity when we issue grants to national organizations. So when we work with the national grantee, we say, can you get into 50 states? Or how many states can you get into? National grantees have their own hosting network. And so they reach out to the different states and seek their solicitation to see if they would be willing to participate in an Open World program.
So national grantee is a country? So a national grantee is someone here in the States who chooses?
No, a national grantee, no, we are the issuing grantee. I mean, grant maker.
You're the grant maker, but who's
yes.
the receiver? So,
Well, it could
so
be
what is
Rotary
that?
International.
Okay, okay.
And Rotary is a good example because they have clubs in every state.
Yep,
And-
okay.
And Rotary, I would like to give a shout out to Rotary because they are a wonderful partner. And they are largely responsible for creating a network of clubs in Russia. They increased the size and number of
Really?
clubs in Russia, yes. Everything has abated a bit, but from the 1999, when the beginning, Rotary was very important in working in Russia. And we still have clubs in the United States who nominate for the program because of the sister partnerships.
Okay.
Yes. So when the grantee
Got it.
selects a host organization, that host organization creates opportunities for a professional program. And the delegation will visit, it could be the state treasurer's office. It could be, depending on the theme, it could be the head of hospital administrator. It could be a hospital administrator if it's on a medical theme. So they choose meetings and professional contacts with people involved in that particular theme of travel. The Rotary would be a good example because of the entrepreneurship and business development connection.
Yeah, okay, wow. I was hoping you could explain to me how you, so then on the flip side, how a delegation is formed. Like, is it self-selecting, or are you looking, how does that work?
So delegates are not self-nominated. There is no self-nomination. In each of our countries, we work with the U.S. Embassy there, as well as having on-the-ground nominating organizations. And then, of course, on this side, we would have Rotary or Friendship Force who would also be able to help with that, and sister city organizations. Mostly, though, the nominations come through the embassy from nominating organizations in that country. Trusted, solid organizations that we can use, especially in Russia.
I was going to say, because I think it was 2016, there were, with regard to funds made available for support for Russian participants. Obviously, we want their participation, but I saw that we put in a pretty specific set of criteria for how those are chosen. Is that pretty typical for this program, or were we just kind of looking at this case saying, this is kind of our mission here, so we're going to put a few sideboards on this?
I would say that it was a reflection of the time, and we still do not bring officials from the central government. And that was the language that was in there. And it is a reflection of the times. But we really look for the emerging leader, the young person. Most of our delegates are 35 years and under, or well under their 20s. And they've demonstrated the ability to change minds or to lead groups or to create consensus. That's an emerging leader, and that's the person that comes over here and meets their counterpart in the United States, and they form bonds, they form ideas for projects, and they often continue them.
Very good. Well, with that, I yield back. Mr. Chair.
Mr. Ruppersberger.
Well, again, I'm back on this committee after a period of time, but years ago, that's when I got to know Open World. And I don't know if he's still involved, but Judge Dick Bennett, U.S. District Court judge, is a very good friend of mine, and he was always advocating. In fact, he did go to Russia, I think.
Yes, he did.
And meeting with the other judges. The chairman and I are both on the Defense Appropriations Committee, and we spend billions of dollars in defense and nuclear, Russia, China, on cybersecurity, all those issues. But this is a program that really, we invest in what you're doing, and you've been doing it for 20 years, I think, that really can make a difference down the road. Now, we know that China has a culture, they're communists, that they're going to be looked at when they're here, and that they're not going to be able to make a lot of changes. But the subtle relationships, it's about relationships and trust that might develop. There could be a way when some of these people might be in leadership or have input to make a difference in this world that is really a dangerous world right now. So I think it's a really good program. The numbers are pretty good, 28,000, I think,
Yes.
you're talking about, and that's very good. I want to ask you, because Russia and the Chinese, we're always dealing with issues, and my intelligence background, when you have people coming over, I assume some of these people are going to be spies. I mean, it's just natural that they're going to try to get people, these other countries. Do you see that? How do you deal with it? And if they are, it doesn't make any difference because you're exposing them to a free world. So, could you address that?
That's a great question.
You have to go in the closed session for the thing. I never thought I'd say that in the ledge branch hearing.
Sure. That's a great question. All of the Russian delegates are vetted by the embassy, the U.S. Embassy. The visas are issued in Russia. So that process is pretty well established and pretty safe. Yes, I suppose somebody could be. I couldn't tell you if we had a spy or not. I will not know that. But I know that we take care with the vetting. It's matching the background with the theme of the program and in the career development of that person. Are they in the right place? Are they an emerging leader? And that gets vetted by the embassy, and we trust our U.S. Embassy on
Let
this
me ask you
matter.
this, too. There are certain major threats that we have in our country. And one of the most serious, other than nuclear weapons, is probably cyber. And we know Russia is very aggressive in our country, and China and other countries. Do you ever, as part of a curriculum or educating, letting your people work with our people about the issue of cybersecurity and how it's important to the world that we understand we need standards in that area? Is there any type of format for those type? And it doesn't have to be cyber. It can be something else that is really important to the world.
Well, we have programs on with Russian journalists, and
Yeah, and I noticed that. I wanted to ask you about the Russian journalists
Yes.
because that's major. And I
Yes.
think you just started that.
it's a very powerful statement to a Russian journalist to come to the U.S. and especially spend they spend a third day in Washington because of the museum, because of the Voice of America. It's an important part of their orientation, but often they go to a host city that has a major newspaper or a radio station. So they're meeting their counterparts, and they are talking about the issues in a usually frank and open way. They're very, very confident and capable of saying what's wrong with the situation or what's right with the situation. There doesn't seem to be much fear of having the wrong opinion. So everybody gets educated both ways. We learn a little bit from them, they learn a little bit from us. But generally, the journalists from Russia that come to the United States on our program go away deeply impressed
Well, they
and changed.
probably want to stay, but notwithstanding that.
Possibly.
In closing, I mean, I support your program. I think it's important that we move forward. I think we get something out of it in this very dangerous world. And a lot of it's about networking and relationships in the end. and learning a little bit about our country and what they have to deal with. And hopefully down the world, it does make a difference compared to, again, what you and I do on defense appropriations. Billions of dollars they're spending to protect their national security all over the world, and yet this is not a lot, but hopefully it'll make a difference. When I was a county executive, there was a program called Ultra Program, and it had to do, and we helped fund it, had to do with Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, and the same type of format that you have, where they brought them together, and it really started to work over a period of time. You could see it, and that the Northern, and they would come to the United States, but getting the North and South together.
I think that one thing that we keep in mind when we are hosting Russians, there will eventually be a post-Putin era.
Yeah,
And if you have
Tell
20,000,
Vladimir Putin that, okay?
yeah. Macho man.
and in that time, we will have already hosted 20-plus thousand young Russian rising leaders who are moving into important positions and influential positions and policy-making positions, and that will matter in future relationships. We have 20,000 friends in Russia who are going to be important down the road.
Do you stay in touch with them at all?
Oh, yes, we do. We received a grant last year from an anonymous donor who wants us to promote and grow our alumni program, especially in Russia and Ukraine. And Russia has the 20,000.
That's very important, I think.
Yes,
Future
yes.
world peace.
Exactly. So we are going to work hard on that part of the program. Ukraine is a much easier place to work in, obviously, but mostly it'll be in Russia.
Good.
Thank you.
Go back.
This is obviously critically important work that you're doing, and I've been on and off of this committee, and just disappointed at the budget over the past few years and what's happened. I actually think these are the programs we need to really be investing in, and you just articulated why it's so important over the long haul. And we get very short-sighted sometimes in this body and in this country, not really recognizing these seeds that we used to plant all the time around the world that helped us win the Cold War. We've forgotten those very lessons, so I'm not sitting here promising we're going to get that budget back up to where it was in 2009 or 10, so don't get too disappointed in me, but the opportunities are here for us to grow this program, and so I just have a couple of quick questions. One, you mentioned financial contributions from the outside, which you're legally allowed to
Yes.
partner and take. How is that going, and are you attracting more private donations?
We are so-so in our ability to raise private money. We don't have the in-house capacity, to be honest. None of us are development officers. We're only 6 people in the agency. We are good at talking and asking, and we do submit proposals, and we will continue to do that. Where we have more success is in applying to, at a budget review with the Department of State for funds that are available. But that is also an unknown quantity of money, so I can ask for $4 million and I might see $50,000 in a given year. And I don't know until well into the fiscal year what that amount might be. So it makes budget execution a particular challenge. But we manage, and I've gotten used to the way Open World operates. Open World's a trust fund. It's different than the other agencies that you will talk to. And as a trust fund, that means that we have more fluid beginning dates and end dates of obligations, because it's essentially no-year money. It's appropriated once a year, and then it goes into a trust fund, which means I can spend it over time.
Have you explored the opportunities of building out a fundraising arm of your organization?
Well, we did hire for a 10-month period an outside person who gave us a roadmap, and we have, as I said, we do apply for grants. We have gotten the grants, and the grants are usually for specific purposes, such as the alumni program, which is really an important part of having an exchange program, is continuing with that follow-up. So we will continue to work on that. And we will continue to work on fundraising.
What's the cost share? You may have mentioned this, but like with the Kiwanis, you come to Boardman, Ohio, and you're working with the local Kiwanis. They put you up in housing, but is there any cost share there other than
There
like
is.
an
I mean,
in-kind type of contribution?
Absolutely. Breakfast, you know, it's the kitchen table diplomacy. You sit at the kitchen table with people who are future leaders of countries, and you have your coffee or your tea together, and most dinners are spent together. The lunches are working lunches, but the contribution is that homestay, including the meals, but it's also sharing the culture and sharing family time and going to a local baseball game or a hockey game, which is, it's funny, those kinds of things really matter, and they are part of that bonding process.
One last question. I know the world is obviously changing a lot, and there are always conversations about expanding operations to include other countries. I know there's an interest that I share with a member of expanding to Poland. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, we have been, we've been in conversation, and actually we had a meeting with a staff member from the Congresswoman's office, and Open World is ready to jump in and launch a program. The process that we are going to do, we'll be bringing this up at the board meeting, which is February 28th. Your office has notification of that because you are an ex officio member of the Board of Trustees.
I've heard that. I'm excited about that.
Yes. And it'll be in the Library of Congress, and details will be coming. And so that will be a topic of discussion. And we are ready to do that program, and the board will hear the arguments for it, and it's followed by a 90-day notification to the subcommittees, both chambers.
Okay, terrific.
It's
Well, thank you.
required. To add a country, we have to notify in 90 days.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, and thanks again to your team and our special guest from Serbia. Thank you for being here. I hope this is a great experience for you. I hope you get some good breakfasts in America.
Richmond.
And if you're in Ohio, I recommend Bob Evans. Yeah, very good pancakes. And again, thank you. And I would like to kind of continue this conversation offline around the fundraising piece.
Okay.
I think that can be important. There's a lot of money floating around the world and around the country today, and if we can figure out how to supplement some of this to
Yes.
get you expanded to where you need to be.
Yes.
let's-
We're happy to
let's-
do
let's
it.
have
We
that
are happy to have
conversation.
that conversation. We'll reach out to your office
Okay.
to make that appointment. And yours too, if you're interested.
Terrific.
I would
Go
add
ahead.
to that, I've done development for a small nonprofit, and I realize no one ever wants to pay for maintenance and operations. There are different things you're never gonna be able to sell the ticket for, but it is worth investing, if nothing else, because then you're gonna have people coming in and taking, can kind of supplant funds. You can
Right.
cover certain things. And with the uncertainty that you've experienced with regard to budgeting, this just helps, it just adds, it's worth having someone, and they make, it's kind of, you make what you bring in, so, you need to get someone young and hungry,
Yes.
but not so young, new.
Yes, sure. Yes, exactly, exactly, exactly. We can do that.
And even if it's part of their portfolio with something else that they're doing, they may open
Sure.
you up to all kinds of connections. So anyway.
Sure,
we'll-
well, thank you.
We'll spare our Serbian friends the inside of discussion here, but thank you so much for all
Thank
your
you.
work. We really appreciate it, and it's critically important.
I want to just say something that Phil Kiko, the Chief Administrative Officer, is one of the most important visitors that our delegations speak to. I just wanted to let you all know that. He is a font of information that is practically unmatched in the Ledge Branch. He is wonderful to the groups, and they love talking to him. He's so
Fantastic.
great. So I
Thank
just
you.
wanted you all to
Thank
know
you.
that.
Yeah, Phil's a
Thank you.
great guy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Committee's adjourned.